So revenue mix is the bridge between the sales floor and the actual field, your field agents and your techs. And so it's going to tell you what your sales team is selling and what your technicians are going to be installing. And so what I want to show is I want to break down the revenue mix. So what we need to get is revenue for each system type and then get the percent of total. And then we'll do the same thing for by month and then show a heat map. And then I'll also show you how to create this little fun little heat map here to where you can just have a dynamic heat map if you wanted to just spot check things. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get system type here, a unique list of the system type. And so what we can do on the starting point tab is we can do the unique function, because in the data set, which if you want this data, there's a link to download in the description, or you can just shoot me an email. And so I'll give you my email at the end of this video. And so from here, we have system type right here in column J. So if we click on column J, we're going to get a unique list of the system type. And we're going to get a little 0. And the reason is because we're mapping the whole column and there's not data in the whole column. So if you highlight everything and then press Control Shift if you highlight everything and then press Control C to copy and then Control Shift V to paste, you'll remove the formula and then you can easily delete the 0. Okay, so the first thing we want revenue, and then we can call it like percent of total. So equals SUMIFS. And so what SUMIFS does is it sums a column, a numerical value, if another column is a certain, name. You could even do it based on values as well. But for this example, we want to sum the revenue column, which is right here in column M, the full invoice amount. So we want to sum this column wherever you see system type, column J, comma, equal to, these ranges, these values here. So the first one is split system. And then as we drag it down, we want it to be furnace. And so all you have to do is just double click right here. And if you press Control Shift and the number 4, you can format as a $, and then you can just remove the decimals. So now what we need is a percent of total. So what percent of 1.7 million or of split system is it of the total revenue? And so it's just equals that divided by the sum of everything. And then you can make it a percent by pressing Control Shift and the number 5. And then we want to drag this down and we want the percentages to calculate. And so as you do this, you might be like, oh, okay, this isn't too bad. And then you might realize like, okay, how are these both 23%? That doesn't make much sense. And then also, how is the sum of this, greater than 100? And the reason is because we don't have the referencing right. And so you'll see here that the red box is the range we want, but as we go down, it changes, right? And so we need to tell Excel like, hey, we want the blue cell to go down 1 each time, but we want the red box to stay the same. And that's called absolute referencing. And so you just hit the F4 key for the range, the red box. And so, or you can just put a $sign before and after. But if you hit F4, it'll do it for you. And then you can paste that down, and now you have 1, right? So if you look down here in the bottom right, you can see 1. Or you can go here and press Alt equals, and it'll give you 1 as well. Okay, so now we want to create the chart. And so just highlight system type, and then highlight percent of total, and then go to Insert, and then you can do recommended charts, and then you can see the different types. I'm going to do a line chart just so I can match the other page. However you like to do it, it's completely up to you. And then here, and then I'll change the title, and we'll call it, revenue mix by system type. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is that this is a little bit different than this chart here because this is sorted largest to smallest. And so we can try doing that here, but oftentimes what happens, I'll show you, is you see how it's not working? Because what's happening, it's a glitch in Excel, but it's changing, it sorts everything, but then it messes up the sequencing here. So you can see now, like, this isn't RTU, this is mini split. And so it's not working as expected. And you could try the same thing here and do largest to smallest. And now it's working on the dollar values. And we can just make sure that's all the way down, which it is. And so that works. Another way is you could just click in the range click in this table here and go to sort, and then you could just choose which column, and then you could sort largest to smallest or smallest to largest. Okay, so now we have revenue mixed by system type. We have this chart. If you want to do some formatting, if you wanted to change the color of this, you can just double click and then, click the little paint bucket, and you can, change to whatever color you like. If you want to see the values, you can click here on the little crosshair and go to data labels. And so, yeah, it's completely customizable. Okay, so we have that. So the next thing we want to do is we want to break it out by month and get a % of total for that month. And I'll explain things. And I know I go fast on this. I try to keep these videos under 15 minutes. If you keep them longer than 15 minutes, then I can't upload it to LinkedIn. Okay, so if you highlight here, and then if you just right click and press ST for paste like special transpose, then you will get it across the row instead of in a column. So copy, right click, ST, paste special, and then transpose. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to find the sum of the revenue for split system in January and divide it by the sum of the revenue, right? So we can see what percentage is the split system revenue of all January revenue. And so it's going to be the SUMIFS. So SUMIFS, this time it's 2 criteria. And this one, it was just sum revenue if split system. But now it's sum revenue if split system and January. It's an and criteria, not an or criteria. So full invoice amount is the first argument. And then the next argument here is going to be system type. You could also do month first. This ordering doesn't matter. It's just with SUMIFS, you have to do the dollar value first, or the numerical value that you're trying to sum first. Okay, so system type is going to be right here, comma. And then now we want the month, which is, let me move this out of the way, which is right here, comma, and then here. And we're getting a dollar value, which is as expected because we want a percentage. So we want this, but we want this divided by all revenue. I'm just going to center this real quick. Okay, so this formula here is giving us the revenue of split system and January, but we don't want split system in the denominator, right? We want to be all revenue. So you can actually use the same exact formula. You just need to strip out the part that has split system. And so if you remember, it's C15 and column J. So you can just remove this section. Make sure you also delete the comma. And then you can go here and you can see it's 33%. So now we're going to have the same problem. If we try to drag this across, you're going to get errors, because if you remember up here, we have to lock certain cells. And this is good because we're going to explain absolute referencing and relative referencing. Absolute means dollar signs on both sides, like before. And for all of the columns in the data set, that's exactly what we want. But when it comes to the row, like the blue, which is in the row, as we drag this over, we want it to go from split system to furnace, but as we drag it up and down, we don't want it to go from split system, to the value, the 33%. So the way you do that is you put the dollar sign in between the letter and the number. So you lock the row. And then for January, as we go down, we want it to change. But as we go left to right, we don't want it to change. And so you need to lock the column. So put the dollar sign before the letter. Okay, so assuming I know what I'm talking about, this should work if we paste. And so, yeah, so it's working. And so from here, if you want to create the heat map, it's super easy. You just highlight the range again, and then go to conditional formatting, and then color scales, and then you can do green high or you can do red high. Maybe a super high amount is actually risky, right? Like you're having sort of all your eggs in one basket. But for now, we'll just do green being high. And so that's one way to do it. But what you'll notice here is that it looks a little bit different. And the reason it looks a little bit different is because I'm doing it by system type. Meaning, like, what is the best month on this system rather than overall. And so I'll show you how to do that. So clear rules, from selected cells. So here, conditional formatting, same exact thing, but only on that column. And then instead of doing that over and over and over again, you can just click Format Painter, double click the Format Painter, and just click the top of each one. And then now you can see, so 4 is the lowest, August is the worst month as far as a percentage for the mini split. And so you have that. And so now I want to show you how to calculate this here. And I might start going a little bit fast because it's already been 10 minutes, a little more, 10 minutes and 30 seconds. So now we want to highlight this and then go to Insert and then Recommended Charts. And then you're going to see here, there's a stacked column, and then we can just make it dark. You zoom out a little bit. And we can call this, say, revenue mix by system type and month. I'll drag this out a little bit just so, and then I'll also make this a little bit smaller. So yeah, so that's how you set that up. I mean, everything is, just like this, and I'll show you one more thing, but that just takes just a second. Oh, we can do average mix here as well. We could do average mix. So the average mix here is going to be the sum of the total split systems divided by the sum of the total revenue. So it's just essentially SUMIFS, the SUMIFS of invoice where split system is this, and then you can just divide it by the sum of the revenue. You just divide it by the whole column of final invoice. And then you can Control-Shift-5 to make it a decimal, copy, and then paste. Got to lock the cells. So again, we need to lock the referencing here. We don't have to lock the blue because we want it to carry over. And you'll notice the sum of that is 1. So same thing, conditional formatting, color scales, green high. Okay, so the next thing, and the final thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this here, and I'm going to paste it here, just to show you, like, it's just so you know that, there's other ways to do this. And then let me remove the formatting real quick. Okay, and then from here, what we want is we can just put anything, so 10%. And then we can highlight this and do conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, say less than this. Okay. And then, we could do the same thing here. Conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, less than this. Okay. And then I'll show you one last little trick, but right now this is dynamic. But I'll show you one last little trick to where you can put, like if you were to put, target 15%, it's not a number. Excel treats it as a text value. So, but we can tell Excel, like, hey, I want this to be a number. I just want it to have a label. And so if you press Control-1 and go to Format Cells, Custom, and then here with it being a percent, do your quotations, target, space, okay, and now it's a number. But anyways, that is how you calculate revenue mix percentage. You can do it by, system type. You can do it by month. You can do it by any of these things. And because you learned how to do the unique and the SUMIFS and all that other stuff, you can just pick any of these. You can do revenue stream. You could do customer type. You can do region. You could do it by technician. So there's a lot of different ways you can slice and dice this data. And as always, if you have any questions on this, just let me know. questions@databoards.io. Again, the file's in the description. And if you need, an extra set of eyes on your data sets, there's going to be a form or a link in the description as well. Or you can shoot me an email that you can fill out, and we can set up a time to call or to have a call. But anyways, that's all I got on this one, and I will see you in future videos.